Welcome back to another episode of the Taiwanology podcast. This is your host, Kwangyin from Taiwan's CommonWealth magazine. Today, we'll be taking you to Virginia's Data Center Alley, one of the most vital hubs in the digital infrastructure landscape. This region alone hosts 1/3 of the world's data centers, making it a crucial backbone of the internet and a battleground for power and land. Why is that? According to the International Energy Agency, IEA, by the year 2026, global data centers are projected to consume an amount of electricity equivalent to that of the entire nation of Japan. According to the estimate of The Economist, moreover, the power it takes to run one Blackwell GPU, that is NVIDIA's most advanced offering, is equivalent to half of what an average US household's consumption. Imagine that. Now, our challenge is not only ensuring supply, but also meeting carbon emission targets. Just last month, we saw that US nuclear energy stocks surged when Microsoft announced a 20-year zero carbon energy agreement with Constellation Energy. This deal includes plans to restart a 3 Mile Island nuclear plant unit by 2028, setting a new precedent for low-carbon data center operations. That's, in my opinion, really a milestone. But what role does Taiwan play in this? With leading AI server supplies such as Gigabyte, Lite-On, and Delta Electronics, Taiwan stands to benefit significantly from the increasing demand for AI servers. Well, how is that? And that's the topic of our program today. However, as the industry expands, it is crucial that we also consider resource management and infrastructure development. In this episode, we have the perfect guest to talk about this. We will explore the lessons Taiwan can learn from Virginia's successes and challenges, and discuss what it takes to prepare for the rapidly growing demand in digital infrastructure. In our studio today is Elaine Huang. She is the senior writer of CommonWealth magazine. Welcome back to the studio, Elaine.
Hi, my name is Elaine Huang, and I'm so glad to be back to the program again.
Great. I'm very glad to see you in one piece and in good shape back in Taipei. You just concluded a 2-week trip in the U.S.
Yeah, I think almost 3 weeks.
3 weeks, okay. That's, in my opinion, too long. And you also suffered a little health scare during your trip.
Yeah, problem about my eye.
Yeah,
but it's okay now.
Right. And I'm very glad we don't have to talk about that in the show today. But what we're going to talk about in the show is what you saw in Virginia. So where did you go this time exactly? Could you share with us?
Yeah, I fly to Virginia, and actually it's north part of Virginia. And there is a place called Data Center Alley. That's exactly the place that I was visiting during that period of time.
And where is that exactly in terms of Virginia?
Yeah, I think that located in the northern part of Virginia, and it's around, I guess, probably less than 16 minutes. I mean, less than an hour from Washington, D.C.
It's really close.
Very close. So I would say it's actually the backyard of the White House.
Mm-hmm. The backyard of the center of power in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
So to speak. Right. And what did you see in this data center alley?
Oh, well, why we call it Data Center Alley, it's simply because that's the world's largest data center market. And I guess it's also the highest density in the world, which means that hosting the world's probably 70% of the internet traffic each day.
Wow.
And how big it is, I think if we count the ranking, we have the ranking bar in our magazines. North Virginia actually ranked the number 1 among the whole United States. Mm-hmm. And rest of the Virginia still rank number 10.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, among the U.S. Then that gives you the idea of how big the North Virginia of the data centers market, it counts.
Right. So why would this part of Virginia be such an important place for data centers? Why do the people who built the data centers love that part of the U.S.?
I think we should go back to the year of 1990s. There was a very important and also famous company called AOL, American Online.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Yeah,
those millennials might be familiar with the name American Online, AOL.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. AOL, and also one of the probably largest co-locations providers called Equinix. They set up locations in North Virginia, around the data center alleys. And during that period of time, and I think one of the first large internet peering exchange, the local people call it the Metropolitan Area Exchange East, was relocated to the North Virginia in the year around probably 1997 or 98. And this means that most of the world's internet traffic was then flowing to the data center alley.
Right. So what makes this little part of Virginia so crucial for the internet traffic? Why is internet traffic concentrated in that area?
I think because of that fiber, the period of time, the relocation of the Metropolitan Area Exchange East, a kind of peering exchange point relocated in that area.
Right.
And that attract the internet traffic to that area. And then all the co-locations providers, they start to build the data centers in that area.
Okay, because that is very close to Washington, D.C. That makes it very crucial for data security, information flow, maybe?
Could be.
Okay. So what did you see when you arrived at the data center alley?
First of all, when we got off the airplane and we drove to the highway, the airport, we call it Dallas International Airport.
DC.
Yeah, DC, Dallas International Airport. And we live in Chantilly. That's also around 20 minutes away from Dallas Airport. And a long way to the Chantilly, we start to see some kind of data centers, but it actually looks like warehouse, tons of warehouse.
Just gray, boring,
gray
gigantic
building and gigantic buildings along the freeway. And the second day, we decided to go and to see how it really looks like. And then we drove to the main road called Lawton Parkway, because that's actually in the county called Lawton County. So they have a main parkway called Lawton Parkway. And when we drove on the Lawton Parkway, we see even more data centers.
Ooh,
yeah.
okay.
And in Washington, D.C., if you like American football, you must know a team called Commander.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not a football player.
I'm not a fan.
But if you are American football players or fans, you must know Commander. Their headquarters and training place actually is in Ashburn. That's a place in Loudoun County.
Okay.
Next door of the Commander's headquarters is tons of data centers. Yeah. We took the picture because it's funny.
I'm wondering how the players feel that they're surrounded by data centers.
Yeah, it's very fun.
Right.
So not only the Commander's headquarters, but also for the local residents, their communities, and also the shopping center or fitness centers. Some of the data centers are very near.
Okay. Oh, interesting. So whose idea was that that Loudoun County, Ashburn would be a perfect place for data centers?
Well, first, I think for the Virginia state government, and also the local government of Loudoun counties, they were all highly support the data center industries to develop locally. Why? Because they actually do the report of it. One data center jobs, it actually bring 3 relevant jobs to the local.
Why is that?
You need to build data center, then it comes to the construction works.
Right.
And also you need a facility, you need the equipments, so it all brings people
and they need
come
to
the
eat,
county.
they need to live.
Need to eat. Exactly.
Okay.
So it brings 3 relevant jobs to the locals. And who is the key person? We did interview one of the guys who is very interesting, called Buddy Reiser. He's actually the executive director of the Lawton County Economic Development.
Right, I see. Mr. Reiser.
Yeah, Mr. Reiser. Buddy worked for the development centers more than, I guess, probably 18 years. And he witnessed the development of the whole data center alleys. And they create an incentive plan, subsidies, for the data center providers who want to build data center there.
So he's the top salesman for Loudoun County.
Exactly. And local people call him godfather of the data center.
Right, I see. And are people happy about what he's doing?
Well, at the very beginning, I do think people were happy about that because it brings jobs, opportunities, and also tax.
Tax revenues for the county.
Exactly. But in recent years, especially last 3 years, even Mr. Reiser started a little bit concerned.
Why? Why is that?
Because generative AI appear, people start to use ChatGPT, and we all know that it consumes even more and more, power. And for the AI data center especially, it consumes even more power compared with the traditional data centers.
Right.
So local people start to concern of whether the data centers will sort of exploit their land or the electricity they use. So some of them, they joined the public hearing and to sort of do the testimony of it.
Tell us about the public hearing. Where did you go and what did you see?
When we were in North Virginia, we visited one of the middle school in the evening, actually, after the school. So we witnessed more than 400, almost 500 people. Almost all of them are local residents. They joined the public hearings. The public hearing is
what is it about?
Yeah, it's about the in the local area, the major utilities company called Dominion Energy.
Okay, that's an electricity provider.
Yeah, and Dominion planned to build a transmission line for the data centers because of more and more data centers nearby, near neighborhood.
Right.
You can see lots of data centers, so they need the transmission line.
And do you have an idea near Ashburn or Loudoun County, how many data centers in total are in that area?
Well, I do have the data. It shows that in Virginia as a whole, it's more than 450, almost 500 data centers in Virginia. This number is actually far more than the data centers in Germany, the whole country.
In the one state's data centers, that the numbers exceeding all the data centers in Germany.
Yeah, exactly. Oh. So you will have the idea of how big the data center markets in Virginia and also the density.
Wow, okay, that's very impressive.
But I think if we count it for the investment, in the
upcoming plans.
Yes, in the year of 2023, I think 90% of the investment flow to the local county. It's all about data center.
I see. So it's the bulk of the investment.
Yeah. So for the Dominion, if they don't build the train stations or the high voltage transmission line or power tower, I don't think they will have enough ability to support the growth of the data centers in the future. But for the local residents, they have a lot of concern because of the high voltage of the transmission line. They're going to pass through the schools and also their communities, their house and also a church. So some of them are worried about the environmental impact, health issue, and also during the daytime when the students play on the playground of the school, and the power line will actually just go through the school. So they are so worried about that.
I see. Okay. So it looks like the concentration of data centers and the number of upcoming plans are really becoming a concern for the local residents because the sheer amount of high voltage power lines that are going to pass through these places. So we're going to take a little break here. When we come back, we're going to have Elaine talk about how they're going to address these concerns. Welcome back to Taiwanology. This is your host, Kwangyin. In our studio today is CommonWealth Magazine's senior writer, Huang Elaine. Welcome back, Elaine. So we're just talking about the really impressive number of data centers in North Virginia and the growing concern of the local communities of the high power voltage lines. And you were just saying that there are many people who are concerned about the health risks and maybe environmental impacts. So how is the utility going to address this issue?
Well, I think for the utility, I think they are at right path because of the growth of the data centers. They do need to prepare for it. That's why they need to build the substations and also the high voltage transmission line. But for the residents, they are actually not against the development of the data centers, but they want to find a solution of the environmental impact and also their probably health issue. So they do the testimony during the public hearing, and their proposal actually is the underground of the transmission line.
Just put those transmission lines underground and it's okay.
Yeah, I think it's okay for them. So they just want to find a balance between the development of the data centers industries and also the living environment locally.
I see. So in other words, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And also in your story, there's one scene that I find very interesting is that the data centers are pretty close to the residential areas. There's one guy you talked to, I think he was quite unhappy that in fact data centers are kind of getting closer and closer to his home. Could you tell us what he said?
Oh, yeah. I did visit one of the resident estate called Braidfield Estate. It's located in Ashburn. That's the epicenter of Data Center Alley. And the guy I talked to is Nagumi. He moved to Ashburn from India 12 or 13 years ago. And the reason why he moved to Ashburn is simply because he loved the countryside.
Nature. And
things.
at the time, there were no data centers.
There were no data centers, as much as that, like it today. But, I mean, suddenly he found out when he walked out of his house and walked around 5 or 10 minutes, there is a data centers constructing right now.
Oh, okay.
And so close. Even I myself, when I interviewed him in front of his house, I could see the data centers. So you could see how close it is.
Right. So is he considering moving again?
I don't think he would like to move out, but he keeps on appearing in the public hearing to show his voice of against the data centers. I mean, getting closer and closer to my house.
So would he really raise his hand and say, do we really need so many data centers? Or something like that.
I think he's suffering the dilemma because he works in the IT industries. And I think that's part of the data center industries.
Right.
So
it's
a dilemma.
He is himself maybe part of the problem or something. So Nagumi, if you're listening, this is not against you personally.
Yes.
Please. Right, but I really think this is a very interesting dilemma that human beings are faced with right now because we all want increased productivity, efficiency in work. So you and I, people are very happy to be using ChatGPT and Claude or other generative AI services. But at the same time, the same topics are emerging in Taiwan as well. Is that, do we have enough electricity? Do we have enough power to sustain the growth, the rapid growth of the AI industry? So here's my next question. Data centers, as we know, are very power hungry. And I listened to an economist podcast and they were talking about how much power a Blackwell GPU, that's NVIDIA's most advanced GPU, the power it consumes is equivalent to half of what an average US household's consumption. And I really think that's really impressive. Never have we had such a power-hungry device and infrastructure in our lives. So I'm wondering what kind of issues should Taiwan pay attention to when we are developing AI and data centers at the same time we could be facing a power shortage issue?
Yeah, I think that's the dilemma that we will face very soon because it's happening in Data Center Alley, which is actually the frontier of the industry.
What are they saying? That residents are concerned about power shortage?
I think they do worry about that. But at the same time, they are not totally against the development of the data centers because they know that it is impossible to avoid the wave of generative AI. Right. Yeah. So I think just like what Kwangyin just mentioned at the very beginning of the show, the total power consumption of the global data centers will reach to 1 TW. Right?
Terawatt.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. In the year of 2026, that's equals to the whole Japan's power consumption.
That's
quite big.
In 1 year and a half. So it's very soon.
Yeah. And I think the CSP, cloud service providers.
Like AWS?
Yeah, like AWS, Meta, and Google and Microsoft. They do come out with one of the solutions. They directly cooperate with their energy companies.
They buy their energy directly from the power plants or utilities.
Yeah, or they sign some kind of agreement or collaboration plan with them. Just like Microsoft and also the constellations, they just signed a cooperation plan. And, well, that's about the nuclear power. And not only Microsoft, but also the AWS, Amazon. They also signed an agreement. I guess it's in June.
Okay.
It's also about the nuclear.
Nuclear energy, yes.
And also OpenAI. Last year or the year before last year, they also had a cooperation with Helion, Helion Energy, a startup. It's also about
Nuclear fusion. Yeah.
Exactly. And why? That's because of the data center. It cannot tolerate 1 second of electricity blackout. Yeah. So they need the stability of the electricity supply.
Right.
And that's why nuclear become one of the popular clean energies.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are talking about clean firm, 24/7 clean energy. And this stability is something that renewable energy usually cannot provide.
Yeah, exactly. So at the same time, CSPs cooperate with the energy companies to create more amount of the renewable energies. That kind of electricity supply. But at the same time, they are not giving up nuclear power.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that's one of the contributing factors that we are seeing more and more interest in nuclear energy. We're seeing more banks that are standing behind nuclear energy deals.
Yeah.
And this is also something that I think Taiwan should think about, because if we're going to build more data centers, we're going to face the same issue very soon.
I think so. So I think people are start to discussing about it. I think probably Kwangyin know more than me. And I think we should come out with one of the solutions to solve the shortage of the power supply in the future, especially when we embrace the generative AI, that kind of competitions. And I think we want to, for the whole Taiwan, we don't want to lag behind. And I think we're going to face the issue very soon.
Right. I think so too. But do you think from your report, I do see a trend emerging very clearly is that the CSP, the cloud service providers, the tech companies, they are not relying on the government or the utilities to provide the carbon-free energy that they need. They are actively investing in the very infrastructure that they need. And I think that's a good lesson for all tech giants out there.
Yeah.
I do think so. So, well, one last question. What was the most surprising thing or the interesting thing you saw during your visit?
Yeah, I think challenges always come together with opportunities. That's how I actually feel. Especially one of the reasons why I visited Virginia is not only because of the Data Center Alley, but also I joined one summit called Data Center Frontier Summit.
Oh.
They held the summit in Reston City. That's also very near Data Center Alley, very near Dulles International Airport. And during that summit, I do see lots of players. They are all from data center ecosystems, which means like co-location providers, facilities providers, construction persons. They are discussing positively about the AI data center. How do we gonna build AI data centers?
They're very bullish.
Yeah. Why? Because of just like what you mentioned, the power consumption of the AI data centers will consume more power. So the architecture of the design will be different. Like in the past, we use the air cooling. But for the Blackwell GPU, it needs like liquid cooling things.
Because it's more efficient?
Yeah, and also it can solve the heat issue.
Ah, okay.
So
it could cool down more efficiently.
Exactly. So people are talking about how they're gonna put all of the elements together and to redesign the AI data center in the future that is more power efficiency, and also at the same time, it won't consume more power. Okay. So it actually attracts a lot of people's eyes, and they discuss it quite interestingly.
Yeah, so everything is about perspective. You could see hurdles or you could see opportunities to go beyond. So just we have to use imagination, I guess.
Yeah, I think we have to reimagine energy solution in the futures. and to think it broadly and openly and to come out with a new way of using the energy. I don't know how it's going to be and what will be the new solutions, but I think it should be the problem, or it should be the things that people should openly discuss very near.
I cannot agree with you more. So yeah, it's also something for Taiwan to think about. Well, thank you very much, Elaine, for coming to our studio. That was really a very interesting experience you have shared with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. So that wraps up today's episode. If you enjoy this podcast, please take a moment to leave a review or shoot us an email. To read this in-depth report on the data center alley in Virginia, please visit CommonWealth English website. Our next episode will be available October 22nd. This show is produced and edited by Huang. I'm your host, Kwangyin. Follow Taiwanology wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time.